Joe. Today begins your training on how you can make one of these. Oh. What are you doing? You're not ready for that yet? No. There's definitely some fundamental stuff that you need to learn before we start programming there, little buddy. Before we even start looking at the programming language that's used to make games for the Nintendo Entertainment System, we really have to take a broader look at what it means to make an 8-bit game. When I say 8-bit, what do you think I'm talking about? Now, Joey, you know that Final Fantasy VI was on the Super Nintendo, which was 16-bit, but I think I get what you're saying. You're saying that 8-bit has something to do with the graphics being pixelated. And that's a common misconception. Actually, 8-bit has nothing to do with the graphics. Instead, it has to do with the way the processor works. I guess the best way to start talking about what 8-bit really means is to define what is a bit. In computer terms, a bit sort of acts like a coin flip. There are two possible outcomes, right? Heads, tails. 1, 0, on, off. I could flip it. Heads I go one way, tails I go the other. We could use this to determine what you're gonna have for breakfast, right? So if it's heads, we're gonna have apple, zucchini, corn, and if it's tails, we're gonna have pear, squash, raisin, okay? So one coin flip, one bit, and apple, zucchini, corn! Now imagine, instead of just having one coin where you had heads or tails, you had 2 coins, 2 bits. You could have 4 possible outcomes instead of just 2. Heads, 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 tails, tails, heads, or tails, tails. If you had 4 possibilities, you could also include carrots and peas to what you could have had for breakfast. And now that brings us all the way around to what the knowledge of 8-bit actually means. An 8-bit processor is a processor that can read 8 coin flips at a time. With 8 coin flips, you have 256 possible outcomes. So a good way to think about this is, every time the NES has a decision to make, it has 256 possible options. Yeah, okay, here we go. Oh, here you go. Oh my God, did you do that? With your blocks? This is incredible, buddy. Is this from what your mom is teaching you? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's your numbers in order. In decimal. But it's not going to help you today. Today we got to talk about working with numbers in hexadecimal. Whew. Let's start putting some of this together. Okay, so we learned what a bit is, right? Essentially it's a switch. It's 0 or 1, on or off. We even learned what 8-bit actually means. It's 8 of those switches, which gives us values between 0 and 255. Okay, now we need to figure out a way to talk about these specific numbers, 256 values, that's easier than working with binary. What if we could express all these numbers in 2 digits? Instead of using a base 10 number system like decimal, they switched to a base 16 number system called hexadecimal. Now at first, doing the conversion between decimal and hexadecimal seems kind of confusing, but it's actually pretty easy. If you think about decimal numbers going from 0 to 9, and then starting over again at 0 while increasing the next higher place value, a hexadecimal system does exactly the same thing, except instead of going from 0 to 9, it goes 0 to 15. And those extra numbers between 9 and 15, we use letters to show them. So 10 becomes 0A, 11 becomes 0B, 12 becomes 0C, 13 becomes 0D, 14 becomes 0E, 15 becomes 0F, and then once we get to 16, we start over again. So it goes back to 0 and we increase the next higher place value. So this is a lot of information. Why is this important to know? Well, how the NES hardware actually works is by writing a whole bunch of these hex values to various memory addresses. In order to explain memory management with the NES, the best way I can think to do it for someone who doesn't understand programming is to think about it like a series of mailboxes, right? Bunch of mailboxes that like an apartment complex or a housing complex might have. Hey, John, Mike, come here. I need you to help me explain something. I need one of you guys to stand over here. You guys are gonna get to represent the registers for the Nintendo Entertainment System's processing unit. You ready? So you be X and you be Y and he'll be the accumulator.
I don't want to be X. You be X. Your face is an X. Your mom is an X. Bro, we have the same mom. Oh.
Okay, it doesn't matter who's X or who's Y. There's an X, there's a Y, there's an accumulator. And those are used in order to access mailboxes inside the NES's memory. This determines what sounds are gonna play, like what music's actually gonna play, right? And I need to deliver this to the sound channel. So I give it to you, X, go ahead and put it in the sound channel's mailbox. And this one tells what graphics to play, okay? So I need you to put it in the graphics mailbox right there. And this one, I'm gonna have my accumulator hold on to for a second. Here you go, accumulator buddy. And then I can reference that later. But what I need you to do while he's holding on to that is I need to go in and get all my junk mail. Look for anything that's important and then give me the important stuff. But now I'm gonna get what he's holding and say, okay.
What's a collections agency?
And I might have this going over there, and I might have this telling somebody what sounds to play, and this what graphics to play.
It's a fun! Run!
It's a federal offense to interfere with the mail, sir.
Oh. Come on.
And you're coming too.